When you're ready to build out a job schedule, just head to the Schedule tab within that job, and currently we are viewing the Gantt chart for that schedule. Now you can switch views by clicking on this drop down, and you can see your schedule by list, month, week, or day, which are especially helpful if you're scheduling by hour. Now we'll start by adding a group, and this is like a task group, so you can determine how you want to set up your task groups. In many cases, people will use the groups to identify different phases of the job. So we'll click plus group. I'm going to create a pre-construction phase. And then as soon as I hit enter, I'm ready to now start adding tasks for this phase. So I may do design and planning as a task. I may add sample approval. And this is really easy to just kind of brainstorm all of your tasks. Just hit the enter key, and then you can move on to the next one. So bids and contracts. We have contract execution. Maybe we need to collect the deposit and then maybe obtain the permits. Great. So now we have several tasks within this pre-construction task group, and now we can add details to those tasks. Notice that this blue bar does pop up anytime that you make changes to your schedule, allowing you to undo what you just did. You can also redo. You can also discard changes, and that will discard all the changes back to the most recent time that you saved your changes, or you can go ahead and save the changes. You also have the ability to notify anyone assigned to the tasks that maybe you made a change on. Currently, we don't have anyone assigned to these tasks, so we don't really need to notify anyone. And anytime that you choose your preference here, it will remember that preference next time that you're saving. So you always have that option. We'll go ahead and hit Save Changes. Perfect. Now when you're adding task details, you can just click on a task and it will open up the task details drawer. This is where you can start entering in all of the details about this particular task. So you can add a description here. You can also assign a task type. And so we have some task types already baked into the system for you. But if you'd like to edit them, adjust them, change the colors, add more task types, you can just scroll to the bottom and click Manage Task Types. This is where you can, again, rename those tasks. You can also click and choose the color for each of the tasks and even create new ones. Now these task types are extremely helpful because you also can filter by task type and create some custom views of your schedule, which we'll go over in a separate video. Here you can add the start date for that particular task. So I can choose, maybe we want to start that on the 23rd, and then you'll see that an end date option pops up as well. So for design and planning, we may want, a couple weeks for that particular task. Perfect. And then as I add those, you'll notice that it adds the dates for that task on the Gantt chart. Let's go ahead and get that task type in here. We'll just do maybe design for that task type now. Awesome. And then you also can choose duration if you'd like to. There is this option to add the baseline. This means that you can set these dates as the goal for this task to be completed. And if you end up moving this task around, you can always reference back to the baseline to see the difference between your original scheduled dates and the updated dates. So I could click on that and it will add these particular dates as my baseline. You can also have the ability to set the baseline for your entire schedule once you build it all out. And so rather than doing it task by task, you do have the ability to do it as a mass action. Now we can also add assignees. So currently I'm going to choose Chris for this. I also can maybe assign myself as well. And then I could also add someone else to this task. Here you'll notice that these availability icons will pop up. So as I'm assigning out tasks, it shows that Chris is available during these dates. However, I'm not quite available. I have other tasks that are happening on these dates, and so does Josh. If I wanted to look further into what other tasks those are, I can just click on that icon, and now it'll show all of the tasks that Josh, in this case, has scheduled on those dates. It also will show the distance from this job site that he's going to be working on the other tasks. So you can make an educated decision to see if, he can handle an additional task. It looks like Josh is pretty booked up, so let's actually unassign him, and let's just leave Chris and myself on this particular task. Now you can also add a checklist. And so the checklist is basically a list of items that need to be completed in order to reach completion of this particular task. So for the design and planning stage, of course, we need to ask the customer for design inspiration. Great. And then let's add some more here. We need to schedule the design meeting. We also need to hold the design meeting, make sure it happens. And then we also need to add design notes and plans to JobTread. Great. If you ever needed to edit these checklist items, you just click on this edit button. You can rearrange them, rename them, or delete any that you need to. If not, if I just clicked on one of these items, it actually checks off that item for me and indicates that there is progress toward completion of this task. All right, let's continue adding some additional details for the other tasks that we have. So I'm going to close this task here, save those changes. Another way that you can also schedule out a task is by actually hovering over the Gantt chart here and then just clicking and dragging for those dates. So here we can do sample approval. We want to maybe give us 3 days for that. And then I can also do that to each of the additional tasks. For bids and contracts, let's give us a few weeks for that one. Contract execution, maybe a few days to get those signatures, and then we want to collect the deposit anytime during the contract execution, but by that last date. And then let's also obtain permits after that point. Great. Now you'll notice that I can click into any of these tasks and then just start adding the task types and additional details. So here a sample approval. This is going to be a design type. Bids and contract execution, those are kind of both contracts or office work. So instead of going into each individual task here, I actually can click and select multiple tasks and assign a task type to both of them at the same time. So I'll go down to my mass actions drawer, select the task type of, I believe we have an office work one. Perfect. Apply the action, and now I just set the task type to both of those. Same thing for collecting deposit and maybe permits as well. Let's go ahead and set those task types. We'll call those office work as well. Great. All right, so now we can save those changes. Now again, we need to assign people to these tasks. So I can click and open up one of these tasks, and maybe I want to assign, let's say, Chris to those tasks. Here you'll also notice a new indicator of his availability. It's yellow. It's kind of a caution indicator. And this is saying that Chris has a task adjacent to this particular task. And so he may or may not be available, or another task, if it runs over, may impact his ability to complete this one. So that looks fine for me. Let's check up on that task. Yep, it's actually this design and planning one, so it looks good. He should be okay to complete the sample approval as well. So we'll just hit save, close that. Perfect. Now you also can use mass actions to assign tasks out. So let's say all of these office work tasks are going to be completed by the same person. So I'll select all of them, and then we're going to go down to assignees and choose the person that will be completing them. So we'll choose Zach in this case, apply the action, and then we'll save those changes. And here you'll notice that Zach is now assigned to all of them. Now, as you know, some tasks have to happen before other tasks can take place. So we can create what are called dependencies between your tasks, and basically indicating that this task here, design and planning, has to happen before we get our sample approval. So therefore, design and planning will be our predecessor and sample approval will be the successor. So in order to connect these two tasks to one another, so when I move around design and planning, sample approval won't accidentally be overlapped, I can either hover over the task and find that little dot, and then I can click and drag it to the other task that is dependent on it. So here it's saying that sample approval is dependent on design and planning. So if I move around design and planning, sample approval will also be moving around with it. Therefore, they will never overlap unless I intend for them to. Another way that you can set up dependencies is simply by clicking on one of your tasks and then adding your before and after dependencies here. So my before dependency, in this case for my bids and contract task, would be sample approval. I have to get the sample approval before we can begin the bids and contracts. So I'm going to select sample approval in here as a before dependency, and you'll notice that the arrow is created. I can also add an after dependent. So in this case, after bids and contracts is when contract execution can take place. So contract execution will then be my after dependent. All right, and then another thing that I can point out here is we do have some additional tools within your dependencies as well. So you have the ability to preserve lag time. Let's take a look at what that looks like. There may be a time where you want to make sure that there are a certain number of days between two tasks. That could be lag time or slack time. In this case, let's create that dependency here. But let's make sure that we maintain those days between these two tasks. Otherwise, if I move around collect deposit, it's not ever going to overlap obtain permits, but it could reduce the lag time between them. So we'll just click and we'll open one of these tasks here. And you'll notice that next to this dependency that's listed, we have the ability to lock or preserve the lag time. When I click that, this arrow turns blue, and therefore it's showing us that that lag time is locked. Whenever I move the predecessor task, then the successor will actually maintain the distance. All right, this is extremely helpful too. If I go to collect deposit here, and maybe I create a dependency, you'll see that's a broken dependency because those are overlapping. If it was right here, it would not be broken. So in this case, though, I actually want to be able to collect the deposit anytime during my contract execution phase. So what I could do is I could actually append this dependency to the beginning of the contract execution task. So let's open that up. We'll notice in the contract execution dependency here, I can then anchor to the dependency start. That changes where the dependency is connected to. So in this case, if I anchor it to the start, it's saying that collecting the deposit can happen anytime after the start of the contract execution task. So if I move around contract execution, it's going to make sure that collecting deposit never happens before the start date of that task. However, if I did want to maintain that lag time and just collect the deposit on the last day of the contract execution task, I can still do that and lock that dependency here. So now it's blue, and you'll notice if I move around the contract execution task, that collect deposit actually will just maintain the lag time from that start date. As we all know, changes are inevitable, so let's discuss ways that you can make changes to your job schedule. One easy way is just by clicking and dragging around the Gantt view. So you can click on a task, drag it around, and everything will be maintained according to the dependencies that the tasks have between one another. Also, you can click on one task and change the dates here as well. So let's change it ahead even more. And now you'll see it changes the one individual task, and any broken dependencies will be indicated. We can undo that change. Doesn't look like it'll work for us, but we'll save the other change that we made. Perfect. Okay, additionally, you can also leverage mass actions to make changes to your schedule. So I can select an entire group, or maybe just a couple of items, or I can select my entire schedule overall, and then use these mass actions to adjust the schedule. So if I want to shift all the start dates by a certain number of days, I can do that by entering the number of days here. So let's say that we're behind schedule and we need to shift everything that's selected back by 5 days. So I'll put the number 5 here, apply the action, and you'll notice the entire schedule shifts. Also, I can shift any selected task ahead, and let's say we're ahead of schedule by 9 days. I can do a -9 here, and it will shift all of the selected tasks ahead. Perfect. Okay. Additionally, you have some other ways that you can adjust those dates. You can shift the start date specifically to a date located here. Once you apply this action, the first task that's selected in your list, or the first occurring task, will change to that particular start date, and then any dependencies after that will be adjusted. So if I apply that action, now you'll notice that the start date of pre-construction, design, and planning changed to that specific date, and then all of my dependencies adjusted accordingly based on which tasks I had selected. You can also use these ability to set all of the start dates to a particular day for all the tasks that are selected, or all the end dates to a particular day as well. In those cases, you're probably just going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 tasks selected that you're setting a start and end date to, rather than your entire schedule. You also can move tasks into other task groups if you need to, just by selecting the tasks you'd like to move. You can change the duration of all the tasks that are selected. And then you can even change your task type for the selected items, or adjust who's assigned to which item. You can remove them, or you can go ahead and add them here as well. Great. When you're making adjustments in your schedule, sometimes it's really helpful to have a baseline to know where you adjusted from. So your original schedule you'll put together, and that's your goal. Those are your goal dates. And then as you work through the job, your schedule will vary and change, but you may also always want to compare back to that original baseline schedule. So what you can do is you can select one individual item and create the baseline dates. In this case, you'll see we have a couple baselines set. On this item though, we don't have it set yet, so I can click Add Baseline, and it will set that particular set of days as the baseline for this task. So then when I move this task around, I can always compare back to that. So you can do it on an individual task basis. You could also just select a group of tasks and choose to set the baseline to the current task dates. Or you can select your entire schedule. This is going to be the most common. After you build out your whole schedule for the job, go ahead and select everything, and then say Set Baseline to Current. Once you save those changes, it's going to have that created as the backlog, or basically your original schedule dates. So now that we've set all of these as our baseline, we can then go ahead and make changes to our entire schedule. Let's move it back a few days. Maybe we had some rain hit, so we have to run behind on our schedule. Now, if I click this button up here to show the baseline, it will show me those baseline or original schedule dates compared to our current schedule, so I can compare and contrast any of those changes that were made and see how far along we are to meeting our goals. As always, if you have any questions, contact your customer success manager or email support@jobtread.com, and we will be happy to help.